imply that there will necessarily be an isoquant or an indifference curve. Okay. So suppose now think of an R2. Think of R2. Okay. This is a Y. This is X. This is Y. This is X. Okay. Sure. What does, so think of a function from R2 to R. So what is this function doing? Can somebody tell me what is this function doing from R2 to R? Assigning a real number to every ordered pair. Right? Okay. Now, suppose I think of a utility function which is a function of x and y, which is say xy. Okay? And suppose we are looking at the strictly positive parts of R. Right? So x and y are always positive, strictly positive. So x is the positive amount of x you consume, y is the positive amount of y you consume. So for example, how does this function? So if you think of this point, say 3, 3, 3 of y and 3 of x, what does this function map into? 9. Right? Okay? Now, think of all, so think of say 2, so think of say 1, 2, 1, 5, say, okay? What does this function map into? 5. This function will map into 5. Okay? Sure? Now, so each pair is mapped into some real number. Now think of all the combinations x and y which are mapped into the same number. Think of all the combinations x and y which are mapped into the same number. So think of all the combinations all u and y, so that u and of xy is equal to alpha, some given alpha. What do we call x and y? So what are x and y? They are combinations of x and y which give you the same utility alpha. Right? So there are two things. One, by definition this is a hyperplane. By definition this is a hyperplane. But it's also an indifference curve. On the other hand, if x and y are inputs into a production process, say a function from R2 to R, where R refers to output, so u of xy is not a utility function but a production function, then what will the hyperplane be? It will be the set of all x and y factor combinations which give you the same output. So there will be an isoquant. Right? And when it says that there will always exist a hyperplane which will divide the C set into two there will be two subspaces, one of which will contain the entire C set, right? Okay, what we are saying is, for any set of consumption bundles or any set of K and L feasible technological bundles, technology inputs given the technology, there will always exist an isoquant or an indifference curve. Okay, something even more interesting. Okay, so think of this as this one point and think of this as one point. Okay? Right? Sure? So think of some point here. So these are two vectors now. Right? This vector is what? This vector is 1, 5. Yeah? And this vector is 3, 3. Okay? Now suppose I want to find a point which is 3.5 and 4. I want to find a point which is 3.5 and 4. Right? How can I find that point? That point can be written as 0.5 into 3.5 which actually is 1.5, 1.5. Yes, if you add them, what you get? 2, 4, right? So the 0.24 can be generated by multiplying these by 0.5 and this by 0.5, right? Okay. Suppose I want to find a point. Suppose I want to find a point. Okay. I want to find a point. Say, suppose instead of 0.5 and 0.5, I choose 0.7 into 33 plus 0.5 into 1.5. What is the point that I will get? What will be the point? 0.7 into 3 is what? 2.1. 0.3 into 1 is 0.3. So 2.1 into 0.3 will be 2.4 and 3.6, right? So I get a point 2.4, 3.6. I get a point 2.4, 3.6. Okay, I get a point 2.4, 3.6. Now the point 2.4, 3.6 will be somewhere here. 2.4, 3.6. So the point is, I can generate any path, any point between these 2 points, right? By adding them. So basically what I have here is, what am I doing? I am doing, if I call this point, say, y1 and this point x1, right? What am I doing? I am generating this is called the linear combination of x and y. This is called the linear combination of x and y. Right? And any point between those 2 vectors can be represented as a linear combination of x and y. Right? Okay? So now similarly, if I think of say this vector here and this vector here. Okay? Then what is this vector? This vector is 0, 1. This vector is 1, 0. Those 2 vectors are perpendicular to each other. Right? And if I think of any arbitrary point here, it can be thought of as some number into something in the first vector plus some number into the second vector. So any a point in that space can be thought of as a combination of this vector on 0, 1 vector and 1, 0 vector. Right? Okay, so the 0, 1 and 1, 0 vectors are the vectors which span that entire vector space. They are the basis vectors of that space. They are called the basis vectors of that space. Right? They are called the basis vectors of that space. And those basis vectors of that vector space are the 2 vectors. By multiplying those 2 vectors by constants and adding them, you can generate the entire vector space. Right? So the 0, 1, 1, 0 vectors are the basis vectors. Are they the only vectors which are the basis vectors? Or any other vectors are the basis vectors? Any other vectors can be basis vectors. For example, instead of thinking of 1, 1, I think of say 0, 3 and 3, 0. The same logic works, right? Sure? Instead of thinking of 0, 3 and 1, 0, if I can think of, say this vector, just that these 2 vectors are perpendicular to each other. Again, any point here can be thought of as a combination of some point on this vector and some point on this vector by just multiplying. So these vectors will again be the basis vectors, right? So basic point is, if you have a 2-dimensional space, there will be 2 vectors which will not be unique, but which will be perpendicular to each other, which will act as the basis of the vector space. So any point in that vector space can be constructed as a linear combination of all those basis vectors. Linear combination of all those basis vectors, right? Okay? Sure? All those basis vectors. In fact, if x1 and x2 are the two basis vectors, then any vector can be thought of as alpha x1, alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2. Right? By combining, multiplying x1 with something and x2 with something, right, you can always generate that point. Right? Alpha 1 x2 and alpha, right? Okay, fine. Right? So x1 x2 are called the basis vectors. They are not unique. You can, ultimately, even if you rotate this around, you can still construct any point here by all that will happen is the coordinates of this will change. But as long as this angle is 90 degrees, right, the basic frame will remain the same, no? Right? So you can keep on rotating. The basic idea is they will be perpendicular to each other. For a three-dimensional space, there will be the basis vectors will be R1, there will be three vectors which will be perpendicular to each other, and any point can be represented as in terms of those three basic vectors. Right? If you have a four-dimensional space, any point can be represented as a point in x1 as alpha 1 into x1 plus alpha 2 into x2 plus alpha 3 into x3 plus alpha 4 into x4. Right? Okay? Sure? Now suppose, now think of this as y and think of this as x. Okay? Suppose px is the price of x and py is the price of y. Okay? So we have px into x plus py into y, which is nothing but a function of xy. Because what does it do? It takes you each x, it takes you each y, and then puts them into some number, px into x plus py into y. For example, if apples cost 20 rupees a kilo and bananas cost 30 rupees a kilo, and if you are eating 2 kilos of apples and 2 kilos of bananas, so the xy number will be 2, 2. That number will be mapped into 2 into 2, 40 plus 2 into 2 into 20, 40 plus 2 into 30, 60, 100. So it will be a function from R2 to R1. Right? Think of that's a function from R2 to R1. But do you know what this is called? This tells you what is the total expenditure. Right? This total expenditure, therefore, is nothing but a function from R2 to R1. If you have three commodities, there will be P1 x1 plus P2 x2 plus P3 x3, R3 to R1. In general, you have n commodities, then you know that you write the dot product P dot x, right? P1, P2, P3, Pn, x1, x2. So we have a function from Rn to R. Right? Okay. Now, suppose M is your income which is fixed. Suppose M is your income which is fixed. Say 500. So what is this doing? This is getting, so what is x1, x and y then? Suppose M is fixed. Then what is x and y? The set of all consumption bundles which cost the same amount. Yeah? Which is your budget constraint. But which is also a function which maps all the x and y's into the same number. What is that function called? A hyperplane. Right? So your budget constraint is actually a hyperplane. In a two-dimensional space, it looks like a line. In a three-dimensional space, the budget constraint will be a plane. It will be a set of points x1, x2, x3 which cost the same amount. Yeah? It will be x1, x2, so it will be a plane. In a much larger dimensional sense, it will just be a function because you got to have a lot more commodities than two. So the budget line is not a budget, it's a line only when you're consuming two commodities. In general, when you want to think about the budget constraint in a wider sense, you must think of a hyperplane. Set of all consumption bundles which are mapped into the same number. Right? Which are mapped into the same number. Right? Which are mapped into the same number. Is this clear? You have a hyperplane. Now the theorem of separating hyperplane says that such a budget constraint will always necessarily exist. Okay? And now think of the supporting hyperplane. How will I get the supporting hyperplane here? Supporting, you remember the supporting hyperplane, the theorem of supporting hyperplane says that it divides the space into two sets. Two closed sets, right? Two closed sets. Sure? So what will that closed set be? One of those closed sets will be this. Yeah? Sure? And the other closed set will be there are two closed sets. Now what does this closed set tell you? What is this closed set? The first closed set? So it is a set of all conversion bundles which are affordable given M is actually a closed subspace, right? Okay? Which therefore the separating hyperplane theorem is important. Because there will be a set of conversion bundles which are affordable and there are a set of conversion bundles which will lie above, right? If I do this, if I just do this, then what are they? There is a set of all consumption bundles which are cheaper than my income, which will be an open set, right? Which will be an open set. Okay, now tell me one thing. I'm going to ask you some questions. First, the hyperplane itself is a set. The hyperplane itself is a set because what is the hyperplane? Set of all consumption bundles which cost the same amount. Right? Which cost the same amount. So tell me whether the hyperplane will be a convex set. I tell you why this is important. Because what is it really saying? If X is a consumption bundle, if X and Y are consumption bundles, right? Will any linear combination which are exactly affordable, then will any linear combination of those consumption bundles be also be exactly affordable? That's the question we are now asking. You see, now there are many, the point of doing mathematics here is, you now realize how life becomes complicated, right? When you are no longer thinking about diagrams and R2, etc. Then if you have a three-dimensional space, what does a budget line mean? There is no budget line, it's a plane, no? When you have R3, when you have R4, there isn't a plane. You need to have some definition of what you mean by a budget line. Yeah? And therefore the idea of a hyperplane. When you have this got two consumption bundles, you can think of an indifference curve. When you got which goes like this and right to left and all that your college did. When you have three consumption bundles, then obviously there is no indifference curve. There is maybe some kind of a surface, right? Some kind of plane. If you have a four-dimensional space, you don't even know anything about how it looks like. So how did, and in general, what do you mean by a four-dimensional space where people are consuming 4 commodities? All of us consume more than 4 commodities all the while. So we need to have better definitions of these terms. And what the maths course is doing is allowing you now to think generally of these terms, which you cannot think if you don't have these tools with you. Right? If you did not have these tools with you, then all your life you'll be thinking of people consuming X and Y, which are perfect substitutes or complements, and trying to do something, which makes the whole analysis very unrealistic, right? Okay. Sure? So is this idea clear? Therefore, right, so we have this as a separating, so that's how the, so tell me one thing. Will the hyperplane itself be a convex set? Will the hyperplane itself be a convex set? Yes? Yeah? Yes? I want a yes or no, nothing else. Why will it be a convex? So what is the hyperplane? What is the budget constraint? It's the hyperplane which has the property, so think of X and Y. X is an affordable consumption bundle, right? Y is an affordable consumption bundle. Okay, X is an affordable consumption bundle, Y is an affordable consumption bundle. If Affordable meaning costs exactly equal to m. X costs exactly equal to m, y costs exactly equal to m. So will any linear combination of x and y also cost exactly equal to m? Will x be equal to, if x costs exactly equal to m, y costs exactly equal to m, will any linear combination of x and y also cost exactly m? Yeah? Right? You think so? So suppose you have 100 rupees with you. You can eat, suppose you can buy 1 kilo of bananas for 100 rupees. Right? And or you can buy 1 kilo of oranges for 100 rupees. Right? Can you buy half a kilo of oranges and half a kilo of bananas for 100 rupees?
Yes.
Yes. Can you buy 200 grams of apples and 800 grams of bananas for exactly 100 rupees?
Yes.
Yeah? So it means that any hyperplane will be a convex set. Right? Now I want you to prove it more generally. I want you to prove it more genuine. Okay, not with these apples, oranges, bananas example. I don't want you to prove it right away. I want you to think about it. Right? And produce those proofs for me. Okay? So if the hyperplane is a convex set, is the hyperplane a convex set? Okay? Right. Now the next question I'm going to ask you is, there are some interesting things that we need to tie. Okay? Think of the hyperplane and think of, so basically now you have P1, P2, P3, Pn. These are all n prices. Okay? Right? We have, yeah? This is a commodity bundle in the n-dimensional space. Right? This is P. This is X. P dot X is equal to M actually defines a hyperplane. Right? P dot X is equal to M actually defines a hyperplane. So, all consumption bundles which cost M, which cost exactly M. Right? Okay? Sure? Right? Okay. So, okay. And you have to prove that that consumption bundle is convex. Okay. Now, think of P dot X less than or equal to M. It's a closed set, right? It's a closed set of all consumption bundles which are less than or equal to M. Now the question that I am going to ask you is a very important question. The question is, suppose x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6 and so on is a sequence of consumption bundles, each of which is affordable, each of which lies in that set. Okay, each of which lies in that set. Okay. Suppose this consumption bundle converges to a consumption bundle X star. So it's a limit of the sequence of affordable consumption bundles. Yeah? Will that consumption bundle be also affordable? Yeah? So X1, X2, X3, X4, Xn is a sequence of consumption bundles which tends to a consumption bundle X star. We do not know whether X star is affordable or X star is not affordable. That is, we do not know whether X star has the property that P dot X star is less than or equal to N. Do you think it will have that property or not have that property? It will? How? How? Everybody says yes. But tell me why. Actually, Xerox is that. आपका इसमें काल Xerox दिला होता है ना? पूरा है? Yesterday Xerox photocopy का ceremony है? दो मिनट. Okay, folks. So how will you show that? There is a very important theorem now which we are going to prove. It says if C is a closed set, then that closed set will always necessarily contain all its points of accumulation. If C is a closed set, right? If C is a closed set, that closed set will always contain all its limit points. Now x star is a limit point of the sequence x1, x2, xn, right? x1, x2, xn, okay, right? So if we can prove the theorem, we know that P of x less or equal to m is a closed set. If we can prove that whenever there is a sequence in a closed set, and if the limit of that sequence is in the closed set, if element of that sequence is the closed set, then the limit of that sequence will also always necessarily lie in the closed set. If we can prove that, then we will be able to prove that whenever there is a sequence of consumption bundles which is affordable, okay, each of which is affordable and which tends to a consumption bundle, then that consumption bundle will also be an affordable consumption bundle. That consumption bundle will also be an affordable consumption bundle. Okay, so that's the theorem that I am now going to prove to you. That if there is a, if it is for every non-empty closed set, okay. So there is